Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dicey Discussions, the only podcast produced by two people about D&D. That's not true, but it's been 2 years, life happened, but we're here to cover up all of the topics we never went over in the first 2 seasons. Season 3 was a thing, but you missed out. I never edited it and never uploaded it, and now I no longer have the footage. So.
That's tragic.
Season 3 was a stark difference between the first 2. We filmed us creating the rules that we have on the DM's Guild. They're alternate rules. I'll probably plug it at the end in a different clip that I tag onto this, but otherwise we're here to go over this list that we had just because we want to get it done before we kick back off on a different type of change for what will probably be the longest running season of Dicey Discussions. I don't really want to call it a season anymore. That was like stupid 17-year-old me trying to be hip, I guess. I don't know. I've matured enough to realize that we're not having seasons of this shit. It's just one long running...
It's one series.
One series of us talking about the one thing we both love. And with that, I am your host, Michael, joined by co-host Andrew. And we will kick off talking about alternative game rules, specifically massive damage and injuries. Mm-hmm. I feel like we both have, I think, maybe a little bit differing opinions, at least on massive damage.
Yeah.
When it comes to injuries, gritty or go home, right?
yeah, right. We'll start off with the one that's like, massive damage. I think it's like accurate in some cases because like there is like, let's say a boulder like has a set number of dice that you're supposed to deal damage for, right? But you're having the boulder land on like a 20th level character. I think it's kind of BS that the character isn't gonna collapse from the just huge amount of damage that this boulder would have done to this like 20th level PC. It's just not realistic, and it breaks my suspension of disbelief. So I think that's like one scenario that makes a case for the application of massive damage rules. But I mean, number one, there aren't a lot of groups that like roll like 20th level and high level characters, and then 2, it's just like more things to be thinking about, calculate. So for a beginner DM, it's just not.
Not only that, but nowadays I don't think people really like having to reference their charts for what happens. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been a good while since I've read the massive damage rules. It's the system shock table, right? In the DMG, which is like the essentially you get the wind knocked out of you, you're stunned for 2 rounds, I believe is one of them. Yeah. And it's if you take more than half of your health and damage, is what it is. The condition to roll on the table.
That's the condition.
Which is, again, BS when you get to higher levels. Because who's going to be taking, say you have 118 hit points. Mm-hmm. You're not going to take, you could, it's feasible, but the majority of the time I don't think you're taking half your hit points.
So let me actually propose kind of like a perspective problem with the implementation of massive damage rules, is that like we can agree that as a group of a party levels up, like the amount of damage that you can possibly take, like any party member increases, right? Because like the damage that the creatures output that they'll come across will go up, right? But like character's health doesn't always go inside, right? Like a barbarian rolls a d12 and a wizard rolls a d6, according to like 5e rules, because that's what we talk about. And so a wizard might be way easier to like take half of his health from like the naturally scaling damage over time versus that barbarian. And so I feel like I said, the scenarios that I envision where like massive damage would be applied would be like things where it's like, a massive boulder lands on them or some other bullshit. Not like just some creature does a huge amount of damage from their ultimate ability or whatever. I don't think like the wizard should just like go into system shock just because he got an unlucky shot.
I feel a more accurate use of the system shock table rolls down to how we typically roll things, which is DM discretion. Mm-hmm. If, say, you're turning the corner in a dungeon and this ogre just whammies you with a giant club, you're probably going to be you're going to suffer more than you would say you have adrenaline running through your veins. You know what's going on because you just turned that corner. You didn't know there was no ogre there. Now you're on the ground. You're winded. It's out of you. System shock. Roll it, baby. Go for it.
Yeah.
But when you hit those, say, like 15th level characters, if you've been playing with System Shock from the beginning, it's going to become more obsolete. If you're doing it by the book, the later you get. And I feel like people might view it as unfair because those classes that are rolling like a D6 for hit points or even a D8 probably, you're going to get the shit in the stick. You get hit once, System Shock, you're out of combat for 2 rounds.
Or God forbid, somebody chooses Constitution as their dump stat. That's like...
Glad we don't know anyone who would ever do
Good old inside jokes.
Yeah, we had in a game I was running, a character chose Constitution as their dump stat. It made for a couple good moments in the campaign.
It was like a 6 too, right? Like it wasn't like an 8 or anything.
It was a 6 to start with, bumped up to an 8.
Okay.
But my God, when he instigated that combat against the traveling, friendly half ogres, he was out in the first round of combat because all of them were just like, fuck you, spears.
Yeah. So let that be a little tip. Unless like you've got the best party that'll protect you, like all your fighters got the protection, like fighting style.
He wasn't even like a wizard. He was a rogue.
Yeah.
That's the sad part. If you're gonna make Constitution your dump stat, pick the class where you're not gonna at least be in the front lines of combat.
Mm-hmm.
Be a ranged attacker. Then you can get away with, I'd say, an 8 in your Constitution. Never below that. You're just wrong.
Big
fundamentally. Leave it down in the comments what you think the best dump stat is. I'd love to have a friendly debate about this because I have my opinions, mostly because I typically play a rogue. But moving on.
I think we'll actually agree, but that's okay.
What?
I said I think we'll actually agree, but let's save the topic
for another day.
Yeah,
right.
And I want to hear what they have to say too.
Injuries. You and I know injuries like the back of our hands because we made alternate rules on the DM's Guild. You can check them out. It's super gritty combat. We overhauled the exhaustion system and we created our own, a little more unforgiving injury table. Not as unforgiving as the, I guess we'll call template that we made back in the day. But injuries, I feel, are, I wouldn't necessarily say you need to play with them.
They don't need to, no.
But if you're going for a realistic type campaign, injuries can add a more flavorful experience to your game. Getting that almost fatal injury that is going to haunt your character for the next couple of sessions, it adds to more role-playing, I want to say. Maybe, say you're fighting, I'll use ogres again. Say you have to go out and fight ogres, and that ogre just decimates your party, and you leave, say, with a missing limb or an internal injury. Perhaps your character now has this fear of ogres, and they're not going to want to go out and hunt ogres for the local town anymore. It adds potential role play for the future.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the real things that I can think of is like the scar that like gives the intimidation, right? But the like bonus and then the persuasion down, so that like influences that. And then also there's like vision and deafness, right? Like where you can either go blind or you can like lose an ear.
You can lose an eye or you can lose an ear, and it affects the corresponding perception.
Yeah. So that's like really like a permanent lasting thing that will affect role playing and like the way that the party strategizes. I just think it adds depth to the game, and also like my whole thing with injuries is that it makes the party not default to combat, because I have this thing that I think within 5th edition culture, like there's a much higher focus on combat than there is like role play or like problem solving solutions. It's not like terrible, like I think 4E was like
it's coming off of the
4E
sort of combat centric focus, where the way I like to view it is 4th edition was the edition of Dungeons and Dragons where it's everyone can be a hero. That's what it was focused on, these epic adventures where you're slaying that dragon. But at the end of the day, Dungeons and Dragons, the older editions weren't, I mean, they were combat focused heavily, I'd say. But with the introduction to 3rd edition and like 3.5, I think they lean a little bit more away from it and into roleplay. Not necessarily as much as 5th edition can cater to. That's why I like 5th edition. I like the roleplay aspect of the game. But yeah, 4th edition, coming off of that, they have this sort of combat is the necessity that moves the game forward, but an over-reliance on it is what I feel can kill a campaign.
Yeah, and so basically, like when you introduce like the injury tables, it makes it so that like they'll think more tactically about like getting surprise, trying to play advantages where they're not vulnerable to an attack. And I think that also just leads to a more rich and like rewarding game versus like the roll initiative, roll initiative, roll initiative. Like that's basically what you're doing. Personally, like combat slows down games too. Like it just takes a long time.
Combat takes a long time, and that's the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons, in my opinion. You're not limited to what the programming allows you to do in a video game. Like in the Elder Scrolls, you have clear set skills, magic options, and weapons that you have at your disposal. Sure, you can go and like, try to be stealth, or summon an army of like, flame atronachs to go in and kill for you. But in Dungeons and Dragons, you have this ability to play the environment to your advantage more so than you could in a video game. Because let's say you know that this traveling caravan is going to come down the road, and your mission, rob the caravan. Well, you can't cut down a tree in the Elder Scrolls unless it tells you that's the mission objective. It's like the NPC was like, you're going to cut down the tree so that the caravan stops. In Dungeons and Dragons, the NPC might be like, well, just stop the caravan, do whatever you have to get it. And the players can say, well, we're going to chop down this tree. It's a roadblock. The caravan's going to have to stop.
Yes.
Or they could imitate police officers and stop the caravan that way.
Like the limitless possibilities is what makes Dungeons and Dragons so great and distinct from like video games and even board games with like very strict rules. So I can agree with you on that entirely.
And that's what I feel like injuries can help contribute to. It's a more in-depth way of potentially having to work through combat.
Yeah. Another thing I like about injuries is like, and players will like get on me about this too. Like when I forget, is that like players aren't the only ones that can take the injury. Like in combat, the orc that you just like critted could like lose an arm or lose a leg, and that leads to a very like humorous like part of combat where it's like, well, shit, he can't use the two-handed battle axe that he was using. He's like basically using like a what do you call it, improvised weapon at that point, I guess. Like you can't use it like proficiently. And so it just makes things more entertaining, I suppose. So if you need like something to spice up combat, because if you don't like deliver it right, it can get a little bit mundane. Just roll dice and rolling to hit.
Especially if you're using the same creatures, because the party isn't moving out of the area at the same time, so you're going to be facing the same creatures over and over again. So having that ability to just spice up combat, definitely it adds a flavor that you might not be a fan of, because again, injuries, they're gonna suck to keep track of, but
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, and maybe you can even link this in the description. We use a specific character sheet that's like kind of old schooly, but it's still meant for 5th edition. And below like the area where you keep track of your health, they do have a thing for lingering injuries. And so that's like, something that you can do to have like a dedicated section where you keep track of it.
Yeah, I'll definitely link to that.
Yeah, it's an amazing character sheet if you ask me.
So moving on from injuries, we're going to talk about classes now, specifically class overlap, such as having 3 clerics in your party, and class archetypes, and what potentially stumbling into having a healer sorcerer could be.
So I like to start this like conversation with like AD&D, and so like with AD, that's like my quote basically. Like AD&D, they always go back to that. But basically with AD&D, you had like 4 core classes plus monk, but like you had
shit on monk here.
Yeah, I know, but like
right. The open hand.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so you had like cleric, fighter, thief, which is now contemporary rogue, and magic user, contemporary wizard. Okay, but so these are like very distinct archetypes. Like very little at all do these like archetypes, if you want to call them that, overlap with each other. They're all unique in like a very specific way. And then like in AD&D has this. They have like subclasses. And the problem is when you start introducing like more and more classes, there starts to be like this class overlap and like class creep. So like, for example, the fighter has like a paladin subclass, and like paladins are like holy warriors that like fight on the behalf of the divine. And it's like, man, gee, that sounds like kind of like a cleric. Like, I mean, hey, they can use like bladed weapons instead of like just maces and things that are blunt. But it's like, these are pretty similar, even though they have like different requirements. But you think it was bad like back in AD&D, it's like now with 5th edition and the release of the Unearthed Arcana, for a need to be like more creative, more diverse, and have more options within all these classes, they have these subclasses that basically just like make it so one class is like the other. And it's just like, well, why am I not just playing the actual class at that point, you know?
Because I guess to play devil's advocate here,
Yeah.
to have that sorcerer that can heal while also still being able to, you know, send fireball down the lane, it's pretty great.
Yeah, but except there's light domain cleric that also gets fireball at 5th level. Like,
then you're stuck with light domain.
I mean, yeah, but like, but that's the thing, right? So I guess like if you really want this like diverse ability, but there's an idea across games entirely, not even like geek gaming culture, I mean like game design, where limitations are actually a good thing. Like options are great. Like we were just talking about how in D&D the ability to do anything is great, but the fact that there are worldly limitations, rules, people have to now work around these rules to accomplish their goals, and that actually makes for a more interesting conflict. Because imagine if like you could do literally anything with D&D. Like there's no health points, there's no limitations. The game would be boring. You'd just be like zap, kill, gimme, you know, whatever else you want to do in that world.
Right.
You know, it'd be boring. And so I think just providing too many options, like too many avenues, actually makes the game less fun. But that's just my opinion.
I can agree with you on Unearthed Arcana is, so Unearthed Arcana is playtest material. It's not anything official, except for the shit that came out in the Xanathar's. But yeah, I think you can overstep your bounds a little too much. Having a sorcerer that's like, hey guys, I'm the healer of the party. It's a little stupid. Just like if you were to have a cleric that's like, hey guys, I'm the glass cannon of the party. You're going a little too far. But in 5th edition, having all those classes that they have base game, I think it's fine, except for Ranger, you were done wrong. Ranger was done wrong.
Yeah.
But having the 3 like quintessential magic users that they have now, Sorcerer, Wizard, Warlock, there's enough distinction between them that it's, especially Warlock and the other 2, that it's acceptable to have that much. Same with Barbarian, Fighter, Paladin. Sure, Paladin and Cleric, you might be like, alright, you know, give or take one or the other, it's up in the air, but Cleric has more specific healing, like mass healing capabilities to the Paladin, which is more so like, I'm going to be on the front lines, make sure you don't take the damage, but if you do, I can still kind of heal you on the side.
Yeah.
As opposed to AD&D, where it was, you have your 4 people, obviously you're going to now have one of every class, every time, just sucks to suck, pray to God your friend doesn't pick warrior this time, so you can finally be the warrior.
Yeah.
Because in 5th edition, you could have a barbarian and a fighter. Guess what? You're both on the front lines. You're both having fun, and you both have very different and distinct abilities.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think back. I'm pretty sure we did talk about like party balance one episode, and like the prospect of like people shouldn't actually know what the other players are selecting.
I think that's what I was advocating for. Was the DM gets together with everyone individually, and you make your characters between you 2. And when that first session happens, you sit down and surprise, surprise, everyone's a cleric.
Yeah.
Well, you all wanted to play clerics. This is what you get.
Yeah.
I'm going to backpedal off that stance a little more. Sure, it's great to play what you want, and if you have a party, say, of 6 people, having 2 clerics isn't going to be that big of a deal. But if you have a party of three characters and everyone wants to be the cleric, you have a lot of great friends, because I don't ever think of anyone who wants to be the cleric.
Yeah, right. Well, see, that's the thing, is that I think that's like a very fortunate combination, because at least everybody can heal each other, right? But where it's like, would be terrible, especially like back in the AD&D days, it's like everybody's playing a wizard and has like 2 hit points to start. You know, like even in 5e, like that would be a horrible reality, where it's like you've got a rogue and maybe like 2 sorcerers. It's like everybody's low HP, no nobody can like actually defend, like
The
nobody.
rogue's the tank of the party.
Basically, yeah. Well, but that's like terrible for a rogue, right? Because a rogue depends on somebody being adjacent for that sneak tag bonus. That
You
like
either have to have an
increases
advantage
the-
or
yeah.
an enemy has to be next to your target.
So yeah, like anyway, that's why I think like if you're like just looking for a good gaming experience in terms of like just longevity of a campaign and things, like it's okay to let people in. But if you're looking for like realism and you want it to be like you guys would know each other and like there's no way that you like plan the people coming together for your party, then
right. But also I like to think that in the whole realistic sense, that guy that's going into the bar, like the tavern, to hire your group of people is not going to go up to the table of 3 clerics and be like, I need you all to smite me some goblins.
I mean, but does he really know right off the bat? Like I know, like here's the thing: is like whenever you open like a 5th edition player's handbook, you see the cleric, and it's like this really romanticized picture of like first level character.
First of all, it's a
like,
dwarf, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
with like the warhammer.
He's the war domain, like. For
Yeah, I
sure,
don't think dwarf is my typical cleric. I hate to break it to you.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, yeah, but
Yeah,
when I
get
think
like Constitution, hit points up the ass, the Wisdom modifier from Hill, like that's yeah.
No,
it's pretty good.
yeah. If you're like trying to metagame, get that great stat boost, sure,
Yeah.
dwarf's not bad, but when I think of like video games, movies and stuff, the dwarf's never the cleric.
Okay, like yeah, I can say like in popular culture that's true, but like also since we're divulging into this, like dwarves are like stalwart and like prideful and principled, and that's very much the like characteristics of a cleric, right? Is that you have to be somebody who's like grounded in what you believe versus like very fickle and like airy fairy, and that's kind of like usually associated with elves, right?
Yeah.
Like so, I
Sure,
think personality-wise,
I can see that.
Yeah.
But dwarves can't do magic. Change my mind.
oh yeah, right. So in AD&D, like
AD,
dwarves
not only in AD&D, in the Dragon Age universe,
Yeah.
dwarves, they do not, so in the Dragon Age, side tangent here, Dragon Age universe, when you go to sleep, you go into the realm called the Fade or whatever.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read my book. You go into the Fade, and that's where the magic essence comes from. Humans and elves, humans, elves, and Qunari can do it, right?
Yeah.
Dwarves, when they sleep, they don't go into the Fade. They have no access to magic. End of story.
Well, so,
You're not casting a spell as a dwarf.
Yeah, I remember it was like sitting down PCs. I looked at the book and it says NPCs can be clerics as dwarves, but players can't. So sorry.
my God.
Yeah, it's like so stupid. Like why they make that distinction, but okay. So anyway, though, like no doubt they've made some changes to like the metaphysics of like
Of the-
general fantasy. To
Hell, yeah, even if you look
ability.
in the back of the D&D 5th edition book, the fundamentals of how the multiverse works in Dungeons & Dragons has changed. Because through different editions, God, do you have your brothers in preparing screens?
I think so. Yeah.
I'll cut to when I get to it, but it's the specific page.
Yeah. So for sure the multiverse has changed while I was getting that. As a matter of fact, Mechanus actually used to be kind of the equivalent of Buddhist, like not heaven, but it was like Nirvana. Like literally, yeah, like the Mechanist was called Nirvana. And I can't remember the name of the head god, but that has been the same throughout all of like D&D multiverse history in canon. But it used to be that Nirvana was actually what the plane of Mechanus was called, and it was the absolute law plane. So yeah, they definitely like changed some things over the years, probably for the better.
So this model, I'm gonna show you. I'll put it up in the video too.
Mm-hmm.
This model was not the model forever. They had like a tree model at one point.
Actually, it's very similar. I think
It was written somewhere in here, but yeah, the model changed, and how like you connect between the different planes of existence was different.
You might need to take a picture of this for when they put it up. I think it's the player's handbook. If it's not, it's going to be in the Dungeon Master's Guide. But yeah, here we go. So here you go. Look, it's blocks, but it is still on the same path. This is the multiverse,
right. But
and that's like the center that you're seeing.
In the center that you're seeing on this, you
it's
have
right there.
Yeah, you have like the material plane, the astral plane, and then you have all these outer.
It's
planes.
exactly the same. It's just that that's spherical and they did it block, but it's the same path and it's the same alignment.
Then it changed in between this and different editions.
Okay.
It talks about it.
So they basically
at some point.
returned to this.
I could also be like having a mass hysteria hallucination.
Yeah, but so
yeah, it returns to a similar model of that, but you have the Feywild and the Shadowfell like overlapping the material plane. Then outside that is, the elemental planes, and then you have like Hades,
yeah.
Olympus, and all that.
So between 5th and AD&D, though, you can put this image up there. It's basically the same. They just separated the illustrations, but yeah, I can tell you that they, in terms of the actual quality of the individual planes, they've certainly changed things. And like I said, the one that always sticks out because I think it's so funny is Mechanist being Nirvana, because like they're like polar opposites of what I would think they are. Like I don't think of Nirvana as like this geary kind of like perfect order. I think of Nirvana as like the fluffy release that you're finally out of the cycle of like reincarnation, rebirth, whatever.
So moral of the story,
Yeah.
class overlap in 5th edition, it's pretty okay if you have a decent sized party, but don't try and step on the toes of everyone. If you have, if it's what you're going for, sure, have that like, militaristic type fighter, barbarian, paladin, and a war domain cleric. Yeah, you have a decent amount of diversity, sure, but it's good to have other stuff in there. It just creates for more experience.
Absolutely.
So Andrew, those 3 topics, those were what were left on the list, as you know, so now, but I just want to rack your brain for a little bit.
Sure.
What comes to mind when you think of that one moment as a DM that you just had to say, no, I can't allow this to happen?
Oh gosh.
There's no fundamental way that the laws of the universe would allow for this event to happen.
Okay, I'm not sure it's like the worst case of this, but this is just the one thing that comes to mind. And I actually remember it being kind of discouraging to the player that I was DMing, but this was in the very first time that I DM'd over by my next door neighbor. And I had a rogue who basically, I described the building very thoroughly. The monastery was about 30 feet high, and then, it also had like a roof that comes to zenith. So he wanted to jump from ground level on top of the monastery, and I had already described that there were like holes in the top of the building because it was dilapidated and like, not perfect. And then he wanted to jump down and like climb on one of the posts and all this, like no acrobatics check, no like bounce and realism. And I had to like calm him down and be like, okay, look, I know like anime TV and stuff like really romanticizes the capabilities of like roguelike characters, but I'm sorry you can't do that. That's just like way, way, way too far. And I know that's like a pretty mundane example of like just a dude trying to jump, but like honestly, that's like the one time I remember where I legitimately disappointed a character, and like 2 sessions later he just didn't want to play because the game was basically too based in like some kind of like semblance of a reality. I don't know, maybe I was being a killjoy, but like honestly, there's just sometimes you have to say no, and if that means that character doesn't want to play, what are you gonna do?
Alright, I'm gonna paint you a picture. Andrew, the audience. I was DMing the game one time, and they were traveling from one city to the capital, and for shits and giggles, I had one of the players roll the random encounter. Because, it's whatever. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? Nothing bad's going to come out of it. He rolls Ancient Red Dragon, because of course you do. I'm like, this is fine. All they have to do is hide in some shrubs or whatever. He's just going to fly overhead. It's not a big deal. Oh, how I was wrong.
Yeah.
3 of the 4 players are like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And they run and hide. Of course, I think they were a druid.
I think they were a druid.
The druids, I'm gonna make friends with the Ancient Red Chaotic Evil Dragon. So she walks up to him and And I'm having an aneurysm at this point. I'm thinking, okay, so the dragon's just gonna kill him. I'm like, no, I can work with this. I'm gonna stretch it far to the beliefs that I can possibly do and be like, the dragon's gonna have you swear fealty to it. Sure, whatever, they do that sometimes. He's feeling generous today. It's the second session, I don't wanna kill her.
Yeah.
So she's like, hey, Mr. Dragon, what's up? How's it going? Something along those lines. We've had experience with people doing that before.
At least it's not sub-bra, I mean.
Yeah, at least it's not sub-bra to a beholder, but I'm scratching my head. I'm like, okay, whatever. The dragon yells at you. It's like, swear fealty to me or die. She's like, I'm going to be like, you're kind of cute or whatever. And like, let's just hug it out or something stupid along those lines. And I'm like, okay, well, he's chaotic evil. What am I supposed to do? Just like, sure, we can be best of friends. No. So the dragon just like bites her or does a claw attack or something. And she doesn't die or whatever at the first on the hit miraculously. Because I picked like the lowest attack it could do. She doesn't learn her fucking lesson. She's like, nah, I got this. She's like, we can be friends, and like reaches out and tries to caress the dragon. I'm like, fuck this shit. So the dragon just bites the hand off and kills the PC.
Yeah.
I don't call me like overkill for allowing a ancient red dragon to be the random encounter, but I'm on the belief that the world doesn't level to you. Sorry, not sorry. You could have followed the lead of the rest of the party and just ran away. It made for a memorable moment, in my opinion. Sure, we were all laughing. I was having a stroke, basically. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do here? You're utterly stupid, and it was a fun time all around. But god damn, that was the biggest moment where I just had to say no and shut it down.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, like, I think in both their cases, there were people who were relatively new to the hobby, right?
This was this person's second time.
Yeah.
The first time being the first session of that campaign.
And so, like, I guess it's just sometimes the best way that people learn is tough love, and like, you do drive the risk of like making them like think that the hobby's a little bit rigid, but I don't know. It's just like. The game operates on like certain axioms, certain rules, and I do think that you need to like have a pretty solid baseline that's like can sometimes mesh. Like in Michael's case, he totally showed like a little bit of mercy right there in the beginning, and then it's like when you're pushing the envelope too far, we gotta cut the axe out.
There's only so much a murderous lizard dragon creature will do in tolerance of disrespect, basically.
Yeah.
This creature is ancient, powerful, and knows it's far better than you, and you're here trying to like play buddy-buddy with it?
Yeah.
Sorry kid, you're out of luck. I don't know what you want from me.
He probably was like thinking he was like patronizing too.
Yeah, right? It's like, imagine a 4-year-old just like walking up to you and being like, nah, I'm the shit, kid.
I think a 4-year-old, they'd be like, it's naive, but like this was a grown adult, right? Like,
yeah, basically.
So, like that's just patronizing. Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, leave in the comments, what are some of the most absurd moments that you've had in a game before, be it as DM or as a player? We love to hear, we love to have discussions. I mean, hell, the name of the podcast is Dicey Discussions. So leave down below any comments, questions you have for our beliefs on topics, scenarios you'd like us to discuss, because moving forward, we're going to have a more sort of question and answer based type of segment in every episode. We'd love to hear what you would like us to like explain, what our viewpoints on certain things are that you want to know. By all means. But otherwise, we'll continue in a similar format to this, but to have that more, viewer interaction with the audience. That's what I want from this. I want you to know that you're a part of whatever small, minute community this may form. You're there, your voice will be heard, and we want to have a discussion with you. But I think that about wraps up for what will be a return to this podcast. I'm thinking weekly format. We might have to push to bi-weekly just because life can be a bitch sometimes, you know. But with, you know, Corona going around, we are kind of limited in what we can do, and fortunate enough to be roommates in that situation. We can sit down on Sundays and film. But
Sounds good.
that about covers it up. Any last remarks?
I think that covers it, yeah.
All right. Well, yep. Just leave anything you have down below, and we'll see you next time. Do have a wonderful day.